First of all, thank you everyone for joining us today. I am so pleased to be here. You're actually standing at my alma mater. I went to elementary school here from kindergarten through fifth grade. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to come back and see how the students and the staff and the incredible folks are working together throughout the state and the county, working with our students. So let me just say, first of all, I want to just thank the teachers and the students here today and the staff. It's tremendous what they have done through this pandemic, and I know it's been a challenging time for everyone in Nevada and across the country, really. We've come far, but we have groundbreaking vaccines now. We're rolling them out quickly, fairly. That will get us the pathway to recover across our state. Since the start of the pandemic, my focus has been on addressing the twin health and economic crises that have hit the Silver State, and getting our kids back in school has been a top priority. I know how urgent that need to reopen has been, both here and really across the country. That's why I was proud to vote for and fight for the American Rescue Plan. The plan includes robust funding for school reopening to protect our students, families, teachers, and staff. Today, I am proud to announce that in total, we are delivering more than $1 billion to Nevada's K-12 schools for COVID relief. In addition, there is $92 million for Nevada to support COVID-19 screening and testing. And the American Rescue Plan also provides more money for closing the digital divide, something we've been working to do since the crisis started. I have heard from Nevadans, from children, from parents, our teachers, about the challenges of educating our kids in the middle of a pandemic. I am focused on making sure that our kids can heal from this pandemic, which has taken a huge toll on them. And I was just talking with the principal here and the superintendent. Mental health related ER visits among children rose 44% last year. And Clark County has been hit hard, with far too many experiencing trauma and even dying by suicide. I will tell you, this is a concern of not just mine, but many of my colleagues in the Senate right now. And we are in recess, but when I head back, we are going to be having hearings as of a subcommittee for Senate Finance on the mental health impact of our students across the country, including what we saw here in Clark County with the unfortunate and horrific suicides of some of our students. But I do know this, as we continue to look at and understand what is happening here and address the issue, the American Rescue Plan was important for us to put dollars in there to support mental health needs for our students, for young adults, and for adults across this country. In the American Rescue Plan, it provides more support and funding for counselors and behavioral health experts in our schools. I am also working to help students get access to peer counseling, which we have seen has been so effective across the country. I also have a proposal to expand mental health coverage across the continuum of care. I know here in Nevada in the 90s, we just cut and got mental health, and we never even caught up. And now with the pandemic, we're seeing even more stressors on our children and our families in general. So it was important for me to really actually focus on behavioral health and substance abuse, putting more resources behind that, understanding what we can do more for that continuum of care and how we fund it. And so that will be part of the work that I am doing over the next 2 years in Congress through the various committees that I sit on. Just yesterday, I reached out to the Biden administration, really sent a letter to both Secretary of Education and Secretary of Health and Human Services to not only make sure they understand that we have funding in the American Rescue Plan to address the needs of our students in mental health and behavioral health, but we have to make sure the money gets into our communities. And we can't work in silos anymore. What I want to see at the federal level is for all of those federal agencies that have some role in the funding or the oversight for the money that needs to come into our schools, working together collaboratively. So that was the impetus of my letter going to both the Secretary of Education as well as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Let me just say finally, I am so pleased to be back here and have the ability over this course of this last year during this pandemic to really meet with, through Zoom or through the video virtual interface, with so many students across the state who have been challenged for different reasons, but it's something we have to recognize is happening. And so as we get them back in school, we need to make sure they have the long-term care that they're going to need, whether it's in the form of counselors or social workers. You know, Doris Hancock has counselor and 2 social workers on staff here. And just talking with the social workers, even during the pandemic, they were actually going to visit their students at their homes. I mean, that's the kind of care that I believe our parents and our community want, and that's what's been provided through some of our schools. But we have to continue to fund it. We have to continue to make sure they have the resources that they need. And I know, just talking to the principal here, Principal Payne, that obviously there needs to be more resources. So I will continue working with our state superintendent and Dr. Jara, along with all of the other superintendents across the state, to make sure at a federal level we're doing everything we can to support our schools here, our staff, our teachers, our students, most importantly, in doing right by them. So right now, I would like to introduce Superintendent Ebert to say a few words as well.
Good afternoon. I am honored to be here with all of you today to address the importance of the federal relief fund that we have, in particular the American Rescue Plan for Nevada's students and schools. I want to thank Senator Cortez Masto for her leadership and responsiveness during the entire time of COVID-19. And I also want to recognize the Senator's focus, and she said it so well, on the social emotional learning and support for our children, for our staff members, for the community as a whole. COVID-19, we know, has been a huge turning point in education, and now is the moment that we need to make sure that every single child is engaged, as well as every single family. At every level of our public education system, we must be responsible for the effect of its actions and the ability to promote a free and just and prosperous education, one that strives to maximize the talent that every single child brings to the classroom. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan, our districts and schools will have the funding and the flexibility, they need to expand equitable access to high-quality learning opportunities. I'm proud to say that Nevada has been a leader in this way. 15 out of our 17 school districts had some form of face-to-face learning since school started back in August. We know here in Clark County, March 1st was a great day. I was able to visit classrooms with Superintendent Jara, and then also this week, bringing back many more students so they can be engaged in a face-to-face environment. I'm extremely thankful and great gratitude to the leadership like Ms. Payne here at Hancock. I'm enormously thankful also to the determination and ingenuity of our educators. What we heard walking this campus and what I've heard across the entire state throughout this school year is ingenuity and how people have been changing the education system and truly working for every single child and identifying their unique needs. Nevadans, we have always shown resilience in many, many ways, and we've come together through this crisis. One of the things that you all have highlighted, and thank you, is the Connecting Kids. We are the only state in the nation that has provided a device and has connectivity for every child that's learning at a distance. And that is huge. And if you hear of one child, please make sure we know, because we worked extremely hard with public-private partnership. We've used the federal dollars that have been made available to make sure that our children are connected, that we see them, that they're engaged in their learning. I guess also too, huge kudos to Governor Sisolak. Right away in determining the playbook for vaccinations, our educators were at the top. And so today, as we all stand here, we know that now we're, as a state, and 16-year-olds, but early, back in late December and then throughout the rest of the school year, educators, bus drivers, our food service workers have had access to vaccines, and we have 100% that have access to it. I guess despite all of our successes that I always like to celebrate, we're moving from response and recovery to renewal, renewal in education. And the districts have this opportunity now to revisit their strategic plans for educating all of our students. They'll be working on equity and making sure that they're closing achievement gaps. They'll be working with their community to make those determinations, bringing families in, the public-private partnerships that I spoke to earlier. It's not just a one and done. We will continue those partnerships out into the future to build a strong Nevada. And our education system, we know we have come a long way in a relatively short period of time. The tools and skills that our children have brought with them and expanded in the last few months will continue. Again, I want to thank our federal delegation as a whole and Senator Cortez Masto for investing in our children. We at Nevada Department of Education stand ready to work with all of our superintendents across the state, and thank you for being here today. Oh, now I have the pleasure of introducing your own superintendent, Superintendent Jesus Jara.
Thank you, Superintendent Ebert. I'll be brief. You guys saw me yesterday, and really I can't thank enough our Senator Cortez Masto, and the entire delegation. The State Superintendent for her leadership, the Governor's Office. This is really, I've said it all along, this is a community that just wrapped their arms around their children. What we've seen when we closed our schools, connecting kids, as the Superintendent Ebert mentioned, the only state in the country that has connected all kids that need a device. That is a public-private partnership. We've done a great job, gone to a humanitarian effort. Our food service department, our food service staff, over 11 million meals, feeding our families, our social workers, our entire 42,000 employees here in Clark County have really done an amazing job, and I'm amazed every single day when I walk into classrooms, whether it's virtually for the past 6 months to now the exciting as I'm listening to our children in the back. It's so exciting to be back in school, and Principal Payne and her staff are really showing amazing work in our buildings and our schools. I'm going to tell you, this will continue. The American Recovery Act, we're excited really to put some things moving forward to address the equity gaps that we've had in this community. But I'm going to tell you, our priority is really to continue the work to serve all children here in Clark County School District to a high quality education, and really appreciate Senator Cortez Masto's leadership around the mental health aspect. I've been vocal about it because our families and our children are struggling. And due to the federal dollars that we are receiving, we're going to be able to provide many resources for our students who are in crisis. And this is going to be a long-term goal for us as we move forward, because if they're not safe, they can't learn. And that is a priority for me, for this community, and for my school board as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you to our senator, the federal delegation, state superintendent, and our governor as well for their leadership in helping us open our schools face-to-face this week. Thank you so much.
We can take a few questions. Superintendent Zara, Clark County School District is aimed to get about $880 million, correct me if I'm wrong. Where is that money exactly going to be going towards? I've been hearing a lot of it may be going towards professional development. Is that true? And how much of it may be going towards students, and for what?
So there's a lot of things that we're looking to address. Obviously, the digital divide is something that we have to continue moving forward. The mental health is a priority not only for me, for the board, for our community. We're getting ready as we continue to review the guidelines. We're going to have community engagement conversations. We have to have some, I appreciate the accountability that the federal government has put in place to make sure that the money goes to kids to support our students and our families and our employees. So these are community engagement conversations that we're going to start having so we can prioritize with the board for our children.
Anything about professional development?
Oh, well, obviously, you know, as our teachers have done an amazing job moving into distance education. But we have a lot of work to do to make sure that 18,000 educators have the resources available for professional learning to make sure that they deliver high quality instruction.
So just to clarify, how much is Clark County School District receiving from the American Rescue Plan?
Well,
What's the timeline for it actually getting here?
I don't have the numbers yet. I'm glad Kirsten.
That's what I've heard.
No, it's around that that amount. We're still waiting and having those discussions at this time with the state and with the federal government. And once the money comes, we'll get that. We already have the systems that we're putting in place for accountability, so we can put them in the right place.
So it is accurate for us to say.
It's a little bit over 800 million right now for Clark County.
And then also when addressing mental health, where are our numbers right now with student suicides, and have the programs you had in place, like the winter, fall, have that?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the universal screening, the panorama survey that we've used has been well received and has been implemented across all schools. We also have the Lifeline Project program in 11 schools, 68 schools they're now utilizing. Again, that's when we have our multi-leadership teams in our schools. We're bringing our students in for support. That was before. Our Beacon and Go Guardian, where we alert our educators, our social workers to contact students. One of the social workers that I was here today, he said he's part of that program where it's 24/7, where our kids are if they're showing some signs of stress, that we have adults going out to reach out to them. So has it worked? I mean, I think it's really providing a resource for our families and for our students.
And the number of students though?
The number of student suicide, I don't have that number. We can get that to you.
So we've seen a much stronger enthusiasm for in-person learning at the elementary level, but not quite so much in middle and high schools. What do you think the effects of that will be on things like graduation rates, interest in summer school, ripple effects next year, and so on?
So as far as secondary schools, what we have seen across the country, I sit on a COVID task force, on a national COVID task force with colleagues across the nation, and that's what we've seen, that in our secondary schools, it's a decrease in enrollment of kids coming into school. Obviously, it's a little bit more of a challenge on the 5 days and the hybrid, so there could be a lot of variables that addresses, that's impacting that. So our focus right now is making sure that our kids are getting the credits they need to graduate, and then obviously due to the federal dollars that we're getting, we're going to be providing some summer accelerated programs as well. That is going to be K-12.
Do you have any idea for when the summer school?
We're working out those plans right now. We're with our bargaining units addressing those issues so we can make sure that we compensate our educators at the appropriate rate so they can come into work.
Senator Cortez Masto, I have a question for you. A little off topic, but for HR SR1, do you support it for the People Act? And is there anything in the bill you do not support? There's been a lot of conversations over the last few
Yeah,
days
this is
over
really off topic, but happy to talk to you about it. It is going to be coming before us. Right now, it's just been heard in a Senate Rules Committee. I am not on Senate Rules Committee, but I understand they had an incredible hearing. It's going to be marked up when we get back a recess and then voted on committee. We'll see how the votes break in committee, and then it will be coming to the floor of the Senate. I absolutely support making sure that everyone in this country has the ability to vote, that nobody's discriminated against, we're not gerrymandering people out, that everybody can vote fairly, and I support the provisions in the bill that ensure that there's transparency and accountability around not only ensuring the integrity of our voting processes, but at the same time making sure that billionaires can't buy elections, that individuals that are out there that are advocating on a policy or for individuals shouldn't stay hidden, that the individual voter should know when they're getting information, whether it's a commercial on TV or social media or something that's mailed to them, that they know where this is coming from so they can judge for themselves on how they are going to vote for the individual candidates. Here's what I truly also believe, and this came from Senator Warnock, who said this. He said it should be voters choose their candidates. Candidates shouldn't be able to choose their voters. And so there shouldn't be this restriction to individuals having the ability to vote. We shouldn't be putting processes in place. I think Nevada has done an incredible job. I'm very proud of the work that we did over the last election cycle and before. particularly during the middle of a pandemic, to make sure everybody had the ability to vote. Our voting was secure, it was fair, and it really is a model here in Nevada for the rest of the country. That model is what is in this bill, making sure that everybody can fairly get out and have the ability to vote.
And lastly, Senator, you heard Superintendent Jara say a few ideas what he may want to do with the money. What do you specifically want to see with the Clark County School District when we do receive those funds?
I think it is important for us at the federal level. We are not going to dictate. We are not the experts. What we should be doing is supporting and getting the funds into our schools where it is needed most. And then talking with our state and local officials, talking with the associations, talking with the parents and the staff about what's needed in our community, because each community is going to be different. Every school district in the state is going to be different. And so we should be flexible enough, but we need to make sure that the money gets to where we have appropriated it for the reasons of why we appropriated it. One of the areas, as you've heard me talk about, is ensuring that we are taking care of the well-being of our children during the middle of a pandemic, which we don't know the impact it's going to have. We've already seen some of it. So you will see not only in the current rescue plan, but in the other appropriation that we're looking at doing, even in an infrastructure plan that is coming forward, more ensuring that our kids, there is no digital divide. I mean, this is my elementary school. I can tell you when I came here, there was no internet. There were no tablets. There was nothing like that. But the building's still here. So we have to make sure that we are providing them the resources they need to improve it, upgrade it, so no child is left behind in that digital divide. That will be important in our next infrastructure package, and I actually have a bill that supports funding to improve and repair our schools across this country, so that the money that we put in the American Rescue Plan can go towards issues that are necessary to address the well-being and the needs of our students and staff. And at the same time, we'll have a separate infrastructure package to address the infrastructure needs of our schools, whether that's even improving the HVAC or systems that are necessary in some of our older schools. I think it's so important. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming out.